We'll go ahead and convene the meeting. It's 2:35 according to the clock on the wall there. Welcome our new co-chair, Danny Hammond, to the event. Yay. Danny and I had a chance to talk for 40 minutes to an hour or so, a week or so ago, so it was a good conversation. I appreciated Danny's time to do that, so we're going to work together going forward this year. With us today is Carol Robinson, the Classified Center President, so she will be the regular member going forward, is that correct? Mm-hmm. And then Rudy is not here today, but James is here in his stead. Gary's not here today with Cha. We welcome Cha in his stead. Austin's here for the associate students. Jordan is not going to be with us today. John and Dave are here representing the Management Association. And Joe Simonesci and Maggie are here as resource folks for the meeting today. So the first order of business is to approve the meeting minutes from the August 22nd meeting number 2 of the year. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Pinella's here. You snuck in. Hey, Pinella, how are you? Good to see you. So a motion by Pinella. Need a second by somebody who was here?
Second.
John seconds. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And abstentions.
I'm going to abstain since I wasn't here.
Danny abstains. Okay. And Cha abstains. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so the next line of business, members of the public. Mr. Haley's here. Dr. Haley's here. Okay, excellent. Okay, so item number 4. Well, there's a lot of work that we will be doing relative to budget development, and that's item number 5. We'll get into some more specific discussion about process and what have you. But perhaps one of the more significant challenges that PCC and every employer is going to be facing is the Affordability Care Act as it relates to benefits, medical benefits for all employees. So in our particular case, we are beginning to take a long look at that, and I've asked Joe to come in and discuss that topic with everybody today and then be responsive to any questions, because at the end of this process, this committee will be very much involved in some decisions that we make going forward.
So the district actually contracted with Keenan and Associates, who is the third-party administrator that does all of our benefits and our insurance for coverage. They're doing 2 studies. One is a workforce impact analysis, and the other one is one is a workforce analysis, and the other one is an impact study of the Affordable Care Act. We did have some notes that we wanted to hand out, so I'm going to do that.
Joe, can you do 30 seconds about what the Affordability Care Act is in general? It's kind
Sure.
of a brief introduction.
Can you do it as an interpretive dance?
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to see it.
I would prefer that version of it.
Want me to dim the lights for you?
All right.
No, maybe after 5 p.m., not during business hours. Okay, so I actually had some typed up notes that I was going to hand out to describe what the Affordable Care Act was and how it's how it relates to the study, but there were too many typos. I'm a little embarrassed, so I pulled them back. But the Affordable Care Act is a law that was passed 2 years ago with a established start date of January 14, where every employer had the ability to go back and look at their benefits and their workforce to determine who would be and who could not be covered, and to set up an exchange within the state for employees who did not have coverage could get affordable coverage. Make sense?
Employees are people. in
Or
general.
people, anybody at all.
Right.
So in our case, we then contracted with Keenan and Associates to do this workforce analysis and workforce study and impact analysis. And what they're going to be doing is coming in and looking at data from payroll to determine where, if any, gaps in coverage the district has a need to address. Actually, Maggie, if you can talk a little bit about the conference call that we had a few days ago with Keenan and Associates and kind of tell everyone what kind of information they're looking at to develop the study for us.
We're basically looking at 2 sets of data. One is the employee information, and it's a combination of payroll and HR data. And they're looking at every person who has received a check. So that way we're able to to pull all the data to see who could be impacted and look at everything in case there's somebody we missed or something like that. But it's going to be looking at between the employee, the age, how long they've worked here, comings and goings, what type of employee they are. It analyzes everything in extremely great detail. The second study looks at the work history. We're going back to July of 2011 to get a really broad, expansive information. The Affordable Care Act doesn't require that, but that's what we're going to be doing in order to make sure that we have this information and we can make some valid, wise choices and decisions. So it's looking at everything to compare both in historically what would happen, what we're going to be required to do based on this information, and then help us to build some data for the future decisions.
And some of those future decisions, obviously this is also known as Obamacare, so it's very hot in the news right now for obvious reasons. But this really would require the district to provide medical care for any employee who works 30 hours a week or longer. That's pretty much the bottom line of that.
That's the bottom line. And really, for the most part, off the top of my head, we're covered, because we already do that. But what this is going to do is look for any of those gaps. For instance, if just for anything that maybe there's something that has slipped in, someone who's slipped in the cracks that we don't realize that.
We're covered, but are we covered for college assistance?
So that's what
Yeah.
the study's going to look at. It's going
Exactly.
to look at a college assistant who may work 900 hours a year, because the requirement is on average of 30 hours a week, then that person would need to be covered.
Okay.
So those are the types of flexible.
The other thing, I guess, is adjunct faculty who are working very close to what we might call full load, or whatever percentage, 3/5 or however units, because that's another part of the analysis, correct? So,
Just looking at every single person who's received a check.
So as we're ramping up, there are requirements that the district has to follow. In the last pay warrant and an email on October 1st, you received, and part of your package is a memo from Maggie related to the,
So page 3 and 4, and they're both double-sided.
and this was the memo, and I forget what it's called, the marketplace coverage options. This was something that
it's
we
not
actually.
page 3, there you go. One back, it's double-sided page 3.
Oh, no, it's the other packet that they handed you guys, it's the one that
Yeah,
looks
he's
like
got
the.
it.
Yeah,
So this was a requirement. These are the types of things
Oh,
that
I'm
will be
sorry.
coming out more often as we're ramping up and we're getting more experienced and knowledgeable about the Affordable Care Act. More of these things will be coming out. Going back to the study and the analysis, Keenan and Associates will at some point come back out and show us what their analysis has uncovered, for lack of a better word. And then we're going to reestablish the benefits committee that the district had, I think, about a year and a half ago. And so on the first page of your package, we gave you an overview of the previous benefits committee and who they were in 2011-12, who the members were in 2010-11, and then we are recommending for fiscal year 13-14 participants based on the areas that they work or that they represent. So what we're hoping for is feedback from these areas about who's going to be appointed. So as the benefits committee is established, we can have these conversations about the analysis and the impact study. We can look at the Affordable Care Act a little more closely, and we can make some joint decisions or recommendations, I should say, on how we want to proceed.
And so, this was a very, very brief, once over lightly, but what we would suggest that we do is, once we reconstitute the benefits committee between staff and Keenan, we would do kind of a relatively thorough overview of the Affordability Care Act and what it really means and what it's all about, and the California what do they call the California co-op?
Marketplace,
It's, but whatever it's called, the California
It's in
thing.
here.
So another part of your package is
Covered
a frequently
California.
asked questions
Yes.
posting that is now on our website and on the benefits.
The last 3 pages, the last 3 double-sided pages.
And
Right.
and the enrollment is covered California, that's what it's
Covered
called.
There we go.
California.
Yeah.
So in any event, we would go over this FAQ. Yes, sir.
So I have a question around like the anticipated wellness program.
Mhm.
So currently, I'm wondering if you wanna have the additional like ex officio member being Teresa Reed, who is the,
Well, we're not there yet. Hang on, give me 1 second. So where I was going with this is to say that when we do constitute the benefits committee,
Mhm.
we'll go over the FAQ, we'll do the dog and pony with the good PowerPoints, and we'll make sure everybody understands the scope of what we're doing. Okay?
Right.
Now, the question now becomes, who do we want on the benefits committee?
right,
And it doesn't necessarily have to be just one person from each one of the entities that are down there.
Can I,
Yes.
respond to specifically that question? Teresa and I have been in pretty standard, regular communication over the past year.
okay,
And so, you know, whenever something comes up about wellness, we communicate, and so I tried to include her in, the health fair that we have and any other kind of events. So we are in communication, and maybe that might be, the benefits committee would decide that that's something, that's a one-off instead of a permanent, but we'll deal with that.
Yeah,
Fair.
but one of the points might be that Teresa may be an excellent resource to be on the benefits committee because of her knowledge and her expertise and what have you.
right,
So where I'm going with all this is to say, one of the things that I'd like this group to do is to help determine the parameters around the benefits committee. The only thing I would ask you all to bear in mind is, I don't know what level or types of decisions we're gonna be asked to make, and if there's a million people on there, it's gonna make it that much more challenging, right? So,
Generally speaking, just from my background, there's usually the primary and then the secondary. So does PCC usually keep it to a primary and a secondary when it comes to a committee, or is it?
well, there's often discussion, it becomes kind of like a Noah's Ark thing, you know, if somebody got 2, they get 2, if they get 4, somebody gets 4. So, you know, what we're really talking about here is a discussion that I'd like us to have now that bears in mind what the task is, which is to try to make sure that we comply with the law and that we provide the appropriate level of support that we can afford to in relation to the new law and what have you. So we want members on this committee who are both knowledgeable about the topic to the extent that we have them, such as Teresa, as well as people who are representing their groups, but also understand that there has to be a level of practicality as we go through this whole thing. So the first order of business then would be, do we have the right categories there? Joe and Maggie pulled this from other things that have been done in the past. So we have the 2 shared governance groups, the Classified Senate and the Academic Senate. Management Association also being a meet and confer group wearing kind of 2 hats, shared governance as well as meet and confer. We have our issue we don't have the issue, well, we would have issue CFT, I should say issue CFT representative, or representatives, so that's the classified staff from the collective bargaining perspective. CFTA, from the facilities perspective. A faculty representative, this would be the faculty association representative. And then POA is the Police Officers Association, and that's collective bargaining. So these last 4, if you will, are the collective bargaining groups.
And we missed one, I think the confidential.
And then the confidentials, yes, that would be correct. So we need to add the confidentials there. Which I would just put them not as necessarily a collective bargaining group, they're kind of like the management association.
Do you want to include students, or
Okay, good question.
are they out of this discussion because they don't qualify?
Well, not necessarily.
Well,
We have many students who are employees.
okay, student
Right.
employees is one issue.
Right.
Students wouldn't be covered under our plan.
Yeah, students wouldn't, but I think to the extent that you've got college assistants and student assistants, many of which are students, it would probably be a good category to include. Maybe so we just call it the associated students. Is that
yeah, if
fair
we're gonna
enough?
do shared governance, I would go with ASPCC as the,
Associated students,
recommendation.
PCC,
yeah.
so we'll add
Right,
that.
Austin?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that something that you'd wanna wait to determine what the impact is, since
No, I'd like to,
Okay.
I want everybody there from the beginning.
Okay.
I would say, especially like with the background check, when that policy went through, there would have been some things that if the students had been there, they would have been able to counter on, like head off really quickly, so it might be good.
Right. So, Classified Senate, Academic Senate, Associated Students, PCC, Confidentials, Management Association, Issue CFT, CFTA, Faculty Association, and the POA.
CSEA.
Yeah, that was a
CSEA.
CSEA. But which one?
It is CSEA. You guys are CSEA.
CSU.
Yeah, cause it's.
Yeah, so
issue
it's not
CFT.
CFTA. It should be CSEA. I knew that. It did
I
not.
think it's issue
feel right.
CFT and.
It is issue CFTA. Thank you. It should
There's
be.
too many letters.
No, it's CSEA represent. That's the. I knew something was. It didn't. It wasn't going right in my head.
I'm sure they'd be okay with
Is that one
two
of the
people
typos,
in
Joe?
there.
What's that?
Well,
The typos?
But we're not saying
It
just
was
one
a typo.
person from each.
Oh.
No, no, and that's where I was going next. I just wanted to identify the groups first,
Mhm.
and now we get to the numbers. So, are there any more groups? We can go down to Caltech and see if they've got any other group down there if you want. But this covers all the waterfront. Okay, we've got the shared governance side covered, and we've got the
You need how about adjuncts?
adjuncts are part of the
Faculty?
the faculty association.
Not
They are.
really.
Yeah, they are.
They are
They're covered under the,
They're
the
represented.
faculty.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
They
are.
are
Yeah.
represented by the faculty
Yeah.
association, that's correct.
That's just the one contract. What about retirees?
Yeah, well, but yes and no. Let's talk about that for a second, because retirees just get our benefits, whatever they are, automatically, up until age 65, and then they get the,
What
Well,
if
then
they
they can
come back
purchase
and
them.
teach?
and then they come back and teach on top of
But
it.
if they come back and teach 30 hours, do they get what?
Well, and that's part of what
But that's
the
the FA
impact study
represents
is
them,
gonna
though.
be.
But the FA is representing them.
Yeah, I mean, as an
No,
adjunct, they're
actually,
not
they don't.
technically,
We can't, I mean, if they're
If
an
they're-
adjunct, we
yeah.
represent them, but we
Yeah.
can't as a retiree.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, as a retiree, they get their insurance up to age 65, and then they get the supplemental,
they can purchase, coverage after that, so, but considering they actually are participants on the plans, and we're saying on the one side of it, the unclassified students actually aren't right now, there might be an impact, certainly. There's certainly an impact to them, because we're talking about their coverage as well.
Mhm.
But, and, you know, they might decline to participate.
they,
Well, if
the
you're
GASB funds the $1,440
Right.
additional that they get when they hit 65. They hit Medicare, then they get
Right.
$1,440.
If I understand Obamacare correctly, if you are on Medicare, you do not have to use the Obamacare.
That's right.
So that may, it
There's-
depends
there's
on how
multiple-
old these people are.
Well, and there's
Yeah.
multiple parts of Medicare, so some of it can be impacted, some of it
Mhm.
won't be. However, there are a good handful, I wanna say over 100, I believe, that are actually paying for coverage.
Okay, well, with that in mind, then the answer is
Yeah.
definitely then, I guess. Yeah, I
And they're
didn't
paying
realize
that out of their
many.
pocket, full price,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
there's an impact.
Okay, so we'll say PCC Retirees Association, or I guess is what they call it.
Mhm.
Okay?
That needs research.
Yeah. Sure does. Okay. Anybody else? Any other group, I should say? Okay, good. So now we've got that. So now let's talk about the numbers of folks.
You've got 14 groups that I count with the 3 that you added, and that's a pretty large group for making decisions. My recommendation is you have a single representative with an alternate, so that everyone is represented if someone can't make it. I mean, otherwise, if we double this, it's getting huge.
Okay.
Well, my only concern with that is you've got, like confidentials or POA, we've got one representative on the committee that represents, I don't know how many confidentials there are,
A
but
few.
not nearly as many as faculty or classified, so.
There's only a handful of confidentials.
Or adjunct.
Okay, so
Or
that
adjunct.
person has got one vote for whatever it is,
Yeah.
15 people as opposed to.
So
Again, I don't know what the
One
solution
for
is.
315.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
so let me ask you this. It seems like it's a one-size-fits-all decision, right? In other words, whatever we decide as a college, that eventually the board might decide, applies to everybody per the law. So whether I represent a group of 12 confidentials or a full-time faculty of 380 plus another 1,000 adjuncts, the same thing applies. Whatever we do for this group it will be done for that group. Does that make sense? So if the concern is, and I guess this is the concern, Danny, that my vote representing 12 could be making a decision detrimental to the 1,200,
That's my point.
there's a concern there.
Is the committee there to be making the vote or to be making recommendations to the administration?
Well, good question, but either way.
Okay.
Either way, whether it's a recommendation or a decision, there is a concern about representation. So I suppose if we set an upper limit cap on the size of the committee and came up with some complicated mathematical algorithm to sort of back into, the number of percentages on the basis of group, that would be one way of approaching it. Because I'm not concerned in this particular situation. I think it's going to be good decisions anyway. But
I would like to know the mission of this group. Aren't we really trying to find out the facts and what we can do? There's no real debate on there aren't many options
Well,
that are going to come out of this.
but let's talk about it this way. What I hope we're doing is constituting a benefits committee whose first task is going to be to deal with the Affordability Care Act.
Right.
But after that, we're going to move into
Okay.
other issues relative to our
And I
health,
want-
welfare, and benefit packages.
Right, and I think these types of conversations and recommendations being made are going to be few in comparison to the conversations about what we can do to promote health and wellness. I think the benefits committee talking about benefits may happen 3 months before the contract gets renewed and we look at the different plans. The other meetings that we have, and whether they're monthly or quarterly, may be how do we get staff to embrace the no smoking policy that takes effect January 1st? How do we get everybody across campus to get on this bandwagon of healthy living? Those are the types of conversations I think that the benefit committee will also be having. So these conversations about representation and vote, we can look at other committees and what that makeup is for those types of conversations. But I just want to put out there that there's more than those conversations that should be taking place in a benefits committee form.
Okay?
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what other, I guess that would be my question, what other committees do we have where we have representation from 14 groups? Well, and actually representation from 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 groups with,
Well, without getting into history that no one really wants to get into, there's always been the tension between shared governance, which is the academic senate, the classified senate, the confidentials, and the associate students and that group, okay, which deals with governance. And then the collective bargaining groups, which represent the rights of the employees and negotiate working conditions and what have you. So we've tried to maintain on the shared governance side that line. And I think the College Council is an example of that line for the most part. But if you look at the College Council now, some of the standing committees, first of all, the council itself includes representation of all those groups, right? And secondly, the standing committees, if appropriate, include representation of all those groups. So if we were to look at the model of the College Council, which is a good thought, and look at the numbers of representatives of each group on the council, and say that's a model that we could adopt here, that might be a way of getting to this. And the total number in the college council is 15, 16, 17? I mean, when they all come?
There's
maybe it's
3
more.
classified senate on it.
So it's 3 classified senate, I believe there's.
One union, one each of the unions.
Okay, so let's do that. So,
I think it's online somewhere.
oh, it is. I
Right
just
now.
don't remember offhand. So let's just say that it's 3 classified senate. I think the academic senate has 3. I think
And
these.
isn't there 2 students on it? There's 2 students?
They went to 3, I think.
Okay.
So there's 9 right there. The management association, I believe, has 2.
Faculty.
CSEA has 1. The faculty association has 1.
CFT is 1.
Issue CFC.
Issue CFT is CFT is 1. That's right.
There's one
College council is
confidential.
mostly-
And there's confidential is 1.
About the police,
Which one?
POA.
POA.
You know, yes, they have 1. They haven't been there for a while, but they have 1. So there you go. So that's 3, 6, 9, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16.
Plus 1 for the PCC Retirees Association.
And then the PCC retirees would be 1. And then the rest of us. So there you go. I think that's a good idea. Whoever thought of it, it's a good idea. We just go
So
ahead
how
and use
many-
the same college
What's the
council.
total then?
17 roughly.
So then
3,
there's,
6,
then
9.
there's payroll, business, human
Awesome.
resources, and business and college, that's 4 more.
Would you
Right.
guys be able to get 3 students to sit on this committee?
Do you
I'm
have?
sure there would be people that would be willing to.
But it would also have to be the kind of thing, Penella, when we have the business in the meeting, who's ever there is there, and we conduct the business.
Right,
in
that's
the-
what I'm asking, so I'm talking about in terms of their representation.
Do they have that now?
Cause if it is only a quarterly meeting, just making sure that we have students who can participate, how we get the students supported to be able to
I
participate.
think so. I think just depending on the timing of
Okay.
when the meetings are, or like if the well in advance notice, then we can usually make it.
Okay.
The other thing is that we may schedule them quarterly as far as the meetings, but if there's business to be conducted in between each meeting, we would just do that, depending on what the agenda, the needs of the college were, I think, right? Okay, so is there some general consensus that this makeup?
Could you just go over that real quickly?
Yeah,
one more
well,
time?
first of all, in general, we'll look at the makeup and the numbers of the college council, and we'll confirm that what we're talking about here syncs up with that. But generally speaking, as my memory serves, we have 3 classified senate representatives, 3 academic senate representatives, 3 associated students, 2 management association, 1 CSEA, 1 faculty association, 1 issue CFT, 1 confidential, 1 POA, and then we're just gonna add a PCC retirees. And then it would be the, myself, Terry HR, Joe Business Services, and Maggie for payroll and administration. So there'd be roughly 21 people, and this would be the benefits committee. And we'd start with the ACA, the Affordability Care Act, and then we would kind of go from there. And then actually, if you look at the 10-11 list,
Yeah.
kind of syncs up, doesn't it?
Not with faculty though, I was looking at that. There,
There's Roger.
yeah, that's it.
Oh, so it does.
But no,
And
it does
Charlotte,
still
and
sync up
Charlotte.
because you said there was 1 representative from faculty.
Well, actually, Charlotte Williams is faculty, and who else?
Roger,
Roger.
but he's on there as union, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Well, let's don't look at that list.
Anyway,
Doesn't
don't
matter.
look at
That's
it.
a bad
Don't
idea.
The only
Bad
other thing
idea.
is, in the last agreement we had, there was something about a benefits committee, and I don't know if it said anything about the makeup of it, so, but,
Well, why don't you go ahead,
yeah,
we'll take a look
I'll
at
check
that,
into
and if
that, but
there's,
anyway.
yeah, and we'll adjust, but,
Yeah, no,
but this is, I think this is actually pretty good, and,
I think it's an important year too with all the changes that
Yeah.
are coming up,
Yeah.
to have a little more representation or thorough representation.
And the other thing, as Joe mentioned, it's not just the Affordable Care Act, it's not just wellness, but it's also looking at our benefits packages, working with Keenan and determining whether or not those are the best package. Are we getting the bang for the buck that we need to? Or are there other opportunities or other options that might work out better? Can the coverage be extended beyond what it might be for the same dollar? You know, how many PPOs do we need versus HMOs versus, you know, whatever. Every time I go get new glasses, I wonder what happened.
Yeah.
I still walk out there writing a pretty big check.
Yeah.
Huge.
$400
Yeah, what
for
is it?
fair.
Oh,
Exactly.
at least, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, so I'm wondering about that one myself.
Yeah, me too.
You too, huh?
Yeah. But anyway, so that's the kind of, and I don't think any of that has been looked at as a benefits committee in years probably, right?
No, not by the looks of that last committee.
Yeah.
They're taping this, you know, John.
I know.
That's why he's sitting over there. Yeah.
Okay, and then the anticipated topics. Joe, is there anything more you want to talk about that about?
No, these were just ideas that, as part of a discussion topic, just not the, like I said earlier, it's not going to be a one-off conversation. There are other things that will be taking place. And so whether it's quarterly or we do quarterly scheduling, but then it becomes monthly because there are other things that are coming up, just topics for discussion, just wrote them down as a brainstorming type thing.
When would you anticipate the first meeting with Keenan would take place? Or a briefing meeting? Maybe we pull the group together first just to brief them on the Affordability Care Act.
We have had our initial conversation with Keenan to find out what type of information they need. We're going to provide them with a sample to make sure that that's what they're looking for and that they can use for the analysis. I was hoping that we would be able to get the analysis and the study back, and that would be one of the first meetings of the Benefits Committee. So
Okay.
we could see what the gaps are, if
It's
anything.
still within the realm of possibility, it's
Yeah.
tight, but it's there.
So I would say 6 to 8 weeks out before we have that study back.
Okay. Would it be worthwhile to get together 3 or 4 weeks from now and just get the ACA overview and get the group grounded in what
Sure.
this topic is?
Sure, yeah.
And then even explain to them what the study is going to do in terms of, you know, what are the first types of decisions the group needs to make?
I think that for the most part, I think it would be worthwhile because the decisions are a lot farther down the road than a much greater grasp of understanding.
Okay.
The rules are changing so much, there's been fluctuation, then, you know, notifying the individuals of what their requirements and possibilities are versus employer options and requirements, there's so much changing.
So what will,
And correct me if I'm wrong, but ACA takes effect January 1st, 2014, but it's dependent on
Enrollment.
the enrollment,
So
which
the
is
open enrollment
October.
period
for the
is right
district.
now, not for the district. So employers have actually been given an extra year, so 2015 are our requirements.
Exactly.
But the individual, each person in the country should be looking at that and registering and enrolling and saying, does it affect me and what are my options as an individual? Their coverage would start January 1, 2014.
but I think it's important to say, because we've all been listening to radio and maybe reading about this a little bit, is that those people who are covered, like all of us in this room, if we didn't do anything, we're absolutely fine.
Right.
There's nothing that's going to happen to us, okay? It's everybody who doesn't have coverage, 17% of Americans, is that what that number, I remember some percentage, but that are racing to the cooperatives right now, or whatever they're called, to try to take advantage of it. The biggest issue for us is, what are we required to do now based upon that analysis? And then there's another thing, the so-called Cadillac tax, that we're going to have to come to grips with, which is supposedly within the depths of this act, is for those organizations that have really high quality insurance, of which most public employees are deemed to have that.
And as the current regulations, we're nowhere near it.
We're okay?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, then I'll,
But again, that's part of educating this group
Okay.
to see, that's a huge issue. but
Well, yeah,
to
because
know
6,
it.
8 months ago, remember we were at the ACPO business officers meeting, there was grave concern for everybody in that room that every public employee had so-called Cadillac and was going to have to pay significant fines because the quality of what you're providing was more, but now you're saying that's not the
We
case.
have good insurance here, my doctor says we have really good insurance, but, you know, the fact is, it is based on dollar value, and one of the things, again, with this district, we all have the same coverage.
Yeah.
We all have the options for the same coverage, and so therefore,
Okay.
you know, again, going back to letting that group know, that's important.
So one more reason, exactly what you said, one more reason why it'd be really good to get this briefing ahead of time. Now, so let's just say we're gonna try to do that in the next 3 or 4 weeks, which means, can I ask that everybody who's here representing a group, go back to your groups and figure out who your designees are going to be?
And if they can email me so I can just,
We'll put a roster together
and we can put it on everyone's calendar and go from there.
and go from there.
Okay.
So what we'll do, yes?
But so to be clear, we're asking for Academic Senate to propose 3 names.
3 names, and the Faculty Association 1, Classified Senate 3, Management 2, CSEA 1, Issue CFT, CHA would be 1. I don't think there's anybody here from Confidential, so we'll have to fill them in.
I'm confident.
Are you
Yes.
Okay,
And I'm
good.
yours.
Are
Are
you
you
part of that unit?
representing?
I am part of that.
Man, okay, gonna have to treat you a little differently than I
When do they get the
I
names
guess
to
I
by?
should have known that.
Yeah.
If they could do it within the next 2 weeks, that'd be great. I don't know how long it usually
So are you automatically the rep because you're here?
No, Cindy's
Academic
is
Senate's
still
gonna
there.
have a hard
I'm
time.
tired of doing
Yeah.
it, but we can do it in a month.
Probably a month.
We would have had to
You
have
don't
had
know how
this
many-
meeting earlier today.
Okay, so a month is good, and then I'll just schedule a overview for a month and a week.
Oh, executive assistant is part of that.
We are all confidential.
Even executive assistants?
Exactly, we are the only ones that are gonna be,
Okay. We'll have to talk.
we will.
Okay. In any event, okay, good. Okay, so have we beaten this one into the ground enough yet? Everybody
I was hoping for 5 minutes, that was 35 minutes, and I'm good with it.
Okay. Well, but it's important that everybody really understands what this
Yeah.
is, right?
But I do think the overview from Keenan and Associates in a month, 5 weeks would be really helpful.
Okay, very good.
Say at least 5 weeks, because it's just a Senate, because they have to present the names, then they have to discuss it and then vote on it, so it's probably gonna take a good,
It would take a month, but
Yeah.
I'm emailing Eduardo right now,
Yeah,
so
okay.
if he can send out an email next week so that they can vote on it at the 21st, at their meeting on the 21st.
Okay.
So I'll lay it out, so hopefully they'll be able to get it by then.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. All right, so that's, so it sounds like 5 or 6 weeks out is probably the best time to do it.
Bob, is there any kind of a definition of what the benefits committee is, or is that changed now? Or could you send that to us, Joe, so that when we go out to our potential reps, we can say, this is what you'll be dealing with?
Yeah, Maggie and I will go back and look at the benefits binders that the district had in the past and kind of resurrect, and if we need to, we can bring it back to the committee and say, is this still applicable, or do we need to look at it again?
Yeah.
But we can send out.
And I think that there's also been discussion from Keenan on what their professional suggestion is, so we can,
Okay.
marry the two.
Good, okay.
Okay, so basically between Maggie and Joe and Terry, they'll get their heads together, put this together, 'cause it's kind of a joint HR, payroll, and business services thing. Okay, Joe,
Yes,
you're on again,
okay. I'm on with
item 5.
item 5. So, we are looking at the budget process for the district and how previously it was kind of a rollover budget because of the economy and what was happening. I have, for the last few months, been looking at processes that are in place, but are kind of, they're those unwritten processes. So what I'm looking at is taking those processes on how to request funds, allocate positions, request for innovations to sites, and putting them into a written document and process. So we are looking at developing a calendar for a budget process that hopefully we can put forth for fiscal year 14-15. Developing trainings, kind of coming up with how The areas would request their materials or supplies or new staffing or new renovations, and we will lay that out to this group, or at least a model to this group in the near future. But it is starting to be thought about. We want to move away from the status quo rollover budget into a more developed budget that is developed by the units, so they know what they have to spend and what they can spend, and what and that they can plan for any future projects that they're working on. Okay.
Okay. So, Cindy sent out an email just before this meeting, if I remember correctly, from Matt Jordan. And that email had to do with a joint meeting of the Planning and Priorities Group, or I'm trying to find it. Do you have your
No, I didn't.
phone there? I sent it to you. I sent your phone?
No, I don't have it on my personal phone.
Here, I'll look.
Okay.
Every member of the Brac committee would have gotten it.
Yeah.
So AC, can you pull that up?
Which one?
It was the invitation for Doodle for the,
Oh, right, so
Yes,
it's
perfect.
for the 18th.
Okay, and what
It's
does
for
it?
planning?
It's the second integrated planning meeting, so that was the planning meeting that we had
Right.
spring last year. This is the second portion, so for those of you who got to attend to it, it was where the big three governing bodies on campus got together to talk about holistic planning to set our agendas for this year.
So it was BRAC, Planning and
BRAC.
Priorities Committee, or the Institutional Effectiveness?
All three. Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, there it is right there. I think that's it. That's not it. I want to find it and send it because I forwarded it off to you, Cindy. So let me see, get it sent to you.
Carol, I'll forward that to you as well. Thank you.
And let's see, it'll download. Anyway, the point is that there's two things that we're going to be engaged in. One is the actual mechanics of building the budget, which is kind of what Joe was referring to there. And those mechanics are going to be different on a lot of levels, including working with Lancer Point in our new budget development scenario, and then certainly trying to build budgets now that are based upon needs as identified by our educational master plan, as identified by the board of trustees goals and what have you, and trying to make sure that we provide resources to support those things, as well as to provide resources to support things that come out of the institutional effectiveness committee and the program review activities that are taking place. So I think part of what, here it is right there, Matt's thing is talking about, he says, next integrated planning study session. Brac committee, please see the message below. Hi, hello everyone. You are receiving this invitation because you currently serve on one of the committees related to integrated planning. So it's integrated planning. Brac, Planning and Priorities, and Institutional Effectiveness. We met last spring to evaluate our current integrated planning process so that we can strengthen its alignment to accreditation standards, and most importantly, so that we can ensure we have a transparent, cyclic process for program review, improvement plans, and resource allocations. At this meeting, we agreed that we would need to meet again to continue the conversation and collaboration. So basically what this is the linking of planning with budgeting. And as a budget resource allocation committee, we have to try to make sure that in our process, we are fulfilling the needs that are identified through the planning process as best as we can, recognizing that 90% of every dollar are those of us sitting around the table. And so we're really allocating 10% for everything from the electricity to supplies to feed the chem labs and pay the student assistants and all the things that we have to do. So it's a challenge. So as we did last year, the last part of what we did last year was we came up with a list of priorities that we established through a variety of ways. And in fact, this year's 13-14 budget reflected an allocation of funding in support of a lot of the priorities that this group identified, the top 10 or so, as I recall.
Mm-hmm.
So the process that Joe described is a process that mechanically will help us get to where we need to get to support this integrated planning thing. So we would encourage all of us to try to make that meeting and participate, because again, it's the three committees of BRAC, Planning and Priorities, and the IEC, Institutional Effectiveness Committee, which is chaired by Matt now, because Cynthia Olivo was kind enough to get it kickstarted and off the ground, and now Matt Jordan, as our interim dean for, associate dean for general education and program review, is chairing that committee. So it's all sort of related. So I would imagine 4 weeks from now at our next meeting, roughly 4 weeks, Joe will bring in some more template kind of things and begin to kind of lay out mechanically what we're talking about, and then we will have had this meeting.
And that this meeting will be on the 18th between this meeting and our next BRAC meeting. And will you be one of the presenters at that, or will you be in attendance at the meeting on the 18th?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so there we go. Anything else on this topic, folks? We're going to try to get better at what we're doing here.
And let me just clarify, up until a second ago, I was attending, but now that we're having this conversation, I may need to talk with Matt about
Yeah.
presenting.
In fact, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Thanks, John. Okay.
I
Yeah.
vote for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And if nothing, and if you're not presenting, then at least we want to coordinate all of the activities, which is what Pinella helped start last year at this time.
Is it gonna be recorded?
Sounds like we should. What do you think?
I think we should, just because I have a commitment that weekend, I mean, a conference I'm going to, so.
Okay. Okay.
Unfortunately.
So we can make a note of that to have it, see if we can
Yeah,
get it
yeah.
recorded. We can talk to Matt, make sure Matt's okay with that, but I don't see why he wouldn't be.
Yeah.
You're looking pensive and thoughtful.
It's interactive, the last planning session, so I don't know if you watching us doing a
Yeah.
bunch of activities is really helpful.
Well, the presentations anyway, maybe, I mean.
The presentations were meant to be interactive,
Yeah,
like it was
yeah.
really done with good pedagogy, it's not this style of meeting, it's like a working meeting.
I see.
So if there's any way that
You
you
saying I
can-
have lousy meetings, Pinella, is that what you're trying to say?
I think that parliamentary procedure leads towards frustrating experiences. So it's a little bit more interactive, because the idea is that we're.
The answer is yes.
That's a good say.
Did you like that?
Yes.
Not you, it was the process.
I
It's
see,
the
I got it,
process.
I got it.
What
Um,
a political animal.
Alright, so if you can make it though, it was really good for everybody because everybody got to see the interconnected parts that they don't participate with.
Okay,
So you may have to reschedule.
okay, so I'll leave it to you guys to decide that, but, good. Excellent, good. Okay, Joe, Maggie, anything else you guys wanna throw in right now?
We had the governor signed into law the increase of the minimum wage, so we just kind of wanted to
Oh,
bring
cool,
that up
sure.
and talk about how it could potentially impact us on the budget.
Couple that way, couple this way. This is just the blurb. We know that as of July 1st of 2014, minimum wage in the state of California goes up to $9 an hour and up to $10.
Austin gets one.
Up to $10 on January 1 of 2016. I did a rough calculation to see how many numbers of hours we had. Over the next couple of years, we could see upwards of, by the time it gets to the 2016, we could see upwards of 1.3 million increase for just that group. There are certain instances that this doesn't discuss where an employer such as ourselves can pay less than minimum wage, which we've never explored. So that's where we are.
So just to reinforce that there was a law that was signed in.
There was a law that was signed in, AB 10. Governor Brown passed that one and it's gonna be graduated.
So based on the current workforce that we have, if somebody's making less than $9 an hour, the potential impact for that fiscal year, which would be 14-15, is about $150,000 if we continue with the same temporary workforce that we have now. In fiscal year 15-16, if we continued on the same path that we have now, there's the potential increase of a 7-figure amount in additional salaries to the college. So-
Ouch.
Why does it jump so much the second year?
Because that's where it hits from the 9 to 10, and you've got a lot larger group in that number. So when it goes from 8 to 9, we don't really have that many people that are at $8 an hour. We have more often our student workers specifically, but some college assistants, and some of our grant programs, both federal work study and California work study, are both at $9 an hour, their base. So those increase substantially.
So to bring it up, because this is the Brac, these are things that we need to keep in mind when we start to forecast the budget out and think about what it is that we can do and how we can do it, what programs we need to put in place, what the workforce looks like, and it all kind of feeds back into the Affordable Care Act as well. So we don't need to scare anybody, but this is just the reality that we're gonna have to deal with.
And I think it would be good to kind of have what you just said verbally on paper to show us what
Okay.
the impact, the
You
dollar
mean
impact
share
is.
it on paper versus because I have it on paper.
Yes,
Share
we'll
it
put
on
something.
paper.
We'll do something.
A chart or whatever you want
Yeah.
to do, or even on a graph that shows the dramatic impact.
And again, one of the things I commented on was, there's the possible, over the $9 an hour bit, over the $10 an hour bit, there's possible fallout of that other, non-required increases would happen as well. That's something that's not really, quantifiable at this point. The other thing is.
What's the non-required increase?
So for instance, somebody who's now at $10 an hour, we're not required to raise them, but now is there gonna be, it's very likely that, the consensus is, oh, now we need to bring them up so that they're not at the bottom anymore, but that might exist, so we're not, the bare minimum is, what we're talking about is the 1.3 million increase. It could be more.
1.3 million, and what did that represent?
That represents the people
12,
who
13
are
workers.
making $9 an hour, and then when the minimum wage gets raised to $10 an hour, because there's a larger pool of people making $9 an hour, the increase is going to be about $1 million. And so the $1.3 million over the 2-year period is from increasing people who are making $8 an hour to the $9 minimum wage.
That's the 150,000.
Yeah, and then the following year, raising people who are making $9 an hour to $10 an hour to meet the minimum wage.
And that's
So
where another,
combined, it's a
That's
one
where
so
the
that's
point.
another $1.1 million comes from?
And again, yeah, and
Wow.
again, one of the things that this organization specifically hasn't explored and may not want to, but it's an option, is that there are certain circumstances where you can pay less than minimum wage.
Are those all $01?
No,
Okay, so that's an interesting point too, so the $01 are district dollars versus, you said federal work study dollars?
federal work study, Cal
So of the
Works,
1.5 million, what actually impacts the 01 budget?
and we can put that on chart for you.
Do you have any rough idea?
I did not look at it, but, well, we know 75% is gonna be Fund 3, so of that, but how much of that number
Okay.
are work
Yeah,
study?
so this
I
would be
don't-
all good information for us to have, because then we can really determine how it's gonna affect our local budget. But eventually it'll impact the feds, because they're not gonna be able to necessarily kick in all those dollars. It'll impact those that are managing the Fund 03 dollars. They won't be able to
Mhm.
provide as many. In other words, I don't think Washington's gonna write a check to make up California's largesse,
Well, I
right?
think I was about to ask, and not necessarily a
They
follow-up
might.
question for you, but the overlapping moment too is for our students' financial aid
Yeah.
issues, how this is gonna
Yeah.
impact.
Because they get a flat dollar, if they get X number of dollars, well, now we're chipping into that a lot more.
Right?
Right.
So we need to look at the impact on our student workers for
Exactly.
their success, right?
That part is still 2 years out,
Right.
or January of 16, but it's.
So what Joe, go ahead.
So again, I just want to bring it back to that this is the group that's going to be looking at. What
Yeah.
I'm hoping to do is bring in information so we can forecast beyond just the current year and the next year.
And what I would love to do is again do another informational session and invite people like Dr. Semyon and Kim and Dave and anybody, any student services, grant managers, anybody who is paying now college assistant and student assistant wages using all the different funds that we fund through, whether it's Pell Grant, all these things. The foundation, anybody in here, and we need to do kind of an informational overview as to the impact of this. Because it's gonna have major programmatic issues, I think.
Right.
Because we might be able to decide, yes, our district's gonna kick in another $300,000 a year because that's what it's gonna cost us locally.
Right.
But the feds may not have the same plans in mind.
Well, the other thing is if it limits the number of hours that we're gonna get out of a student worker, if they're limited to X number of dollars, it feeds into this many hours, and then you've got that cutoff.
Right.
But the award amounts have not changed dramatically over the years.
Oh, I see.
I have to tell you, since I arrived in around 1990, I mean, we offer a student in the neighborhood of $3,000 or $4,000. Way back when the rate was $4.29 an hour, it wasn't that much of a deal. So now, I mean, you add another hour to it, or another dollar to the hour, it's going to impact John because he's going to have students that have far fewer hours to work.
To work for you.
At a time when we have increased demand.
No
I think
impact
we're-
on their financial aid eligibility because that money is not counted against it's not included in the calculation for their eligibility, but.
Unfunded mandates, I think is what they call it.
Right.
On the one hand, they're trying to help people pay them more of a living wage. On the other hand, they didn't fund it on the back end, so in effect, it's gonna reduce the number of hours many people get to work.
Well, I
At least in
assume-
our environment, at least in our world.
All right, and the feds aren't changing their minimum wage
Right,
requirement.
Right, that's where the problem's gonna be. I
So-
think the governor will increase our budgets accordingly. I just think he'll be responsible in California, but the feds is where we're gonna shrink.
Right. So I think we do need, when we do the presentation, we do need to kind of see what the options are for opting out. If in
Okay.
fact there are options to opt out.
There are certain regulations, whether it's the learner rate, the first 160 hours, I believe it is, you can pay at 85%. If an employer employs less than X number of percentage of employees under 18, anybody under 18, you can pay at 85%. You know, it's not a huge savings either, and do we wanna be the group that's doing that?
So circling back, this is a Brac discussion. See? We
I mean, I
did
can
it.
bring those things forward as well, I can bring those comments of the options, that again, the group can say, yes, we wanna do that, or no, we don't.
Yeah.
It's just there.
Well, but I think we need to look at all the
Information.
facts and
Yeah.
information, but then I do think we have to kind of have a little mini forum and invite everybody, or at least every project director, cost center manager, what have you, that's gonna be impacted by this decision.
So,
Particularly grants is gonna be a big deal.
Big deal for
Right.
grants, yeah.
Yeah.
all right, so we have some time for that conversation. We can probably look at maybe January, February to bring everyone together.
Okay, when does this go into effect?
July 1st of
That's-
2014, and that's gonna be the smaller of the impact. That's gonna bring us from $8 to $9, which again does not affect, if you look at the entire year of 12-13, that was 15,000 hours,
Okay.
which is not a lot.
So this is actually, looks like 16 it says, in 2016.
January of 2016 is the largest of the impact, that's the one where we really need to be concerned.
Right.
And of course, being that we wanna look at that probably by by June of 2015.
Right, okay, so I think January is fine,
Okay.
okay. Good, all right, thank you. Any other handy dandy little surprises that you've got to brighten our day?
Not from us.
Not from you. Okay, so, what I have here is just, handouts, and I'm not going to go over them all. What I do is I collect these things, I see these things, I make them available. Community College Update, which is a newsletter service of the School Services of California, provides some pretty good information. What this is saying, August, things are looking up and stable. The next one is an article that talks about the ACA, the Affordability Care Act, and the provisions of that. And this actually gives you a pretty good primer of what's going on with the ACA. And then UCLA economists see a return to normalcy, whatever that is, but basically bringing California back to the manner in which it did business, so to speak, economically, and the California economy, what's going on with that. This also speaks a little bit to international as well, national and international trends. Talks about quantitative easing and all those exciting things. School bond accountability requirements. We were looking at that very carefully in relation to our Measure P bond funds, and I'm very happy to say that we're one of the few public higher education and K-12 entities that are actually doing this correctly in terms of our reporting and the things that we needed to do. So that's just FYI. Then this goes back a few weeks, but this last thing has to do with the fall enrollments, second last thing, the fall enrollments system-wide for the fall. And basically, if I'm trying to scan this and remember this, but I think the system increased on average 2.5%. So the median percentage increase in enrollment projected throughout the state is 2.5%, and colleges reported a 5% increase in the number of course sections offered, etc. We exceeded all of that, which is good for us, and the opening of the Rosemead site is going to help us that much more. So we're pleased with where we are at the moment from a FTS point of view and a number of sections that we're offering perspective. So that's pretty much it. Is there anything else that anybody wants to discuss? Future agenda items, we've talked about the Affordability Care Act, basically the overview session. Then we've talked about getting together with Keenan when they're done with their study. And then we talked about attending the combined meeting with the planning group and the institutional effectiveness group. And then we talked about a session tied to the information regarding the governor's increase in minimum wage. Any other agenda items? And then, of course, the budget development itself. Danny?
I don't have agenda items, but I just have a couple of questions about just a couple of documents that I was trying to find.
Okay.
So I haven't seen one of these, and I don't know, maybe you guys don't do it anymore, but the operating budget one for 2012-13, I had the one from last year, but I wanted to see one from this year. And I didn't see it in that packet. Yeah, one that's like this. Do you guys still do one like this?
We do, and
Okay.
we did. We just didn't provide it this time, but we
Okay.
can.
I mean, you can just email it to me or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean,
So Cindy, that's
it's
the operating statement.
Yeah,
usually
well, I
says
won't have
fiscal
that in-
year, like,
I won't have that till Marie gets back. Cause she physically does that.
Yeah,
That's-
but she's done it.
Yeah, no, she's done it, but I don't think she's done the final.
Well, she's here. She's still here. No, for 13-14 she did.
She's not here tomorrow.
But she's here right now.
Okay, I'll ask.
Yeah. See, she's.
I don't need it this second. I mean,
Well, she's going to be gone for 2 weeks. Is the point.
I was just,
She's gonna be-
at some point, I'd love to see one. That's.
We're letting her go for 13 days to on a cruise to see the
Oh,
fall colors,
okay.
and I promised I wouldn't bother her, so it's a nice
Okay.
thing for her.
Okay.
Anyway, I think that's done. I've seen that.
There's a second thing that they used to have online. It was like a 10-page, it said budget summary. And I couldn't find, I was in a hurry today, I couldn't find, it was usually about 10 pages.
It's in the board packet. It was 9 pages this time.
It was in that board packet?
Mhm.
I'll look at it.
It's actually
Okay.
also posted on the budget website.
Yeah.
It's on where? I'm sorry?
The budget website. I'll send you a direct link to it.
Perfect, thank you.
No
Okay,
problem.
I was looking for it, thanks. And then the last thing, in none of these reports that I can tell, but again, maybe you can correct me, they have academic salaries, but they never separate out, and we talked about doing this a couple of years ago, they never separate out administration from teaching faculty. It's academic salaries altogether. And I didn't know if there's a way that we could separate out the
Certificated management salaries.
versus, certificated management salaries. And maybe there is a document that has it, I've just been looking and I can't.
Yeah, I think
So-
if you look in that 9-page budget
You think
document,
it's in there? Okay.
I think it's in there.
I'll check that.
Can I
Okay.
see that for a second?
This one? Yeah. That was one, I think from 11-12 or something. I just grabbed one sample of one that I had.
Yeah, this non-teaching certificated,
That's
that's librarians
considered.
and counselors.
No, I'm not talking about, I'm talking about administration.
Well, academic
No.
monthly is faculty, non-teaching certificated is going to be, I believe,
I think that's librarians and
counselors?
counselors, but that's not administrators. So I
I do
think
think it's in that.
academic salaries includes management academic, like deans and all that kind of stuff. And what I was asking is, there's a way, we talked about it a
Yeah,
couple
because-
years ago.
Because classified supervision
They,
management
I
is
know,
broken
they
out.
separated it out, right, but they never do for
But not
academic.
the ones with the,
Right.
I do think it's part of the 9-page summary.
I know
Think
it
it
is.
is?
I know,
Okay.
I know it's
Okay.
in there,
Well,
right?
I'll look at that, and if I
then-
can't find it,
And what we'll
I'll-
do is, we'll give you an answer as to academic, monthly, and non-teaching. The non-teaching certificated may include the certificated managers as well as counselors and librarians. But we'll.
Well, if it does, I'd
check.
like to get the
But
managers
it may
out
not
then.
either, because, anyway, we'll figure it out. But we can,
Anyway.
we can provide that information.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, anything else for the good of the group?
With the integrated planning being on the 18th and we have a Brac set for October 24th, do we want to cancel the one for October 24th and just move for the one in November 21st?
I don't think so. I think we've got things we can do.
So we'll be meeting 3 times this month.
That's okay.
Okay.
It's a hearty group.
We're likely to come away from the 18th with homework.
Okay.
I thought you could say with a headache.
Yeah, well, that too, yeah.
Okay.
But
Look, at he's like the cat who swallowed the canary.
it's likely that we'll have homework.
Okay, so we'll hold the meeting for the 24th for now, the 21st, and the 19th, the next 3. What we'll do, if it's okay with everybody, I'll ask Cindy to kind of project out these meeting dates through June 30.
That would be great.
Okay? So we'll put them on the calendar all the way through the end of this academic
That's
year.
actually also on the Brac website, the full schedule, and they were all given one in the beginning of
Yeah.
July.
It's okay. We'll do it again. Put it on the agenda. We'll send it to everybody again.
We can just send it as a
Thank you.
Outlook invite so we can just all accept it into
Yes.
our calendars.
Well, actually, some past members asked me to stop doing that because they left and they didn't want any more invites, so I had to cancel, and they got upset that I canceled the meeting.
Okay, in any
Can't
event.
please everyone.
Motion to adjourn.
I motion.
Okay,
Second.
second. All those in favor, get up and say goodbye. Thanks, everybody.